but I was better than I was at the Marmot, where I think I was doing about 180 watts. So it was a big win for me, big personal win, that I was able to still ride at the high 200 watt range for the Galibier.
7 days, 800 kilometres and over 20,000 metres of climbing. The Haute Alpes isn't just a ride, it's the ultimate test to the most legendary cols of the French Alps. From Megève all the way to the coast in Nice, every pedal stroke is earned and every summit is a battle. This is where we get to ride like pros, to a journey that transforms every rider who dares to take it on. This is my story.
So we start the first of two stages today out of Briançon. This city is right at the foot of many big mountains. The Galibier, the Izoard, the Laverack, you name it. It's the first time I've been here, but today we're doing a shorter stage. It's going to be 100 kilometres with just over 2,500 metres of climbing. We're only doing the Izoard, and tomorrow we do the Izoard again, but from the other side. So we do it from both sides over the next 2 days. But it's been raining, so it's a little bit moist out there. It's going to be an interesting stage today because the 3-day event is now finished and people have departed, left for home. So it is just us, the people who are doing the full 7-day. So the field is going to be reduced in size, and it also changes the dynamic at the front of the event a little bit in terms of those who are, racing for top 10s and podium spots. Now, as it stands, there's another Brit, Ian, who's riding with the Alpes cyclist team, who is just off the podium, so 4th place. He has a chance to go up to 3rd. Now, if there's a chance this week that I can do anything to maybe get him onto that podium, then I will try and do my bit. We'll see how it pans out though. Today's stage has got 2 time sections. One is a 20 kilometre rolling flat section early on, and then the second time section is like the lead up the valley to the Izoard and also the Izoard itself. It's just going to be a case of settling in and doing what I can manage.
Okay, stage 4 of the Haute Alpes is upon us, and here's my recap. Just over 100 kilometres, taking in the Col de Izoard from Briançon. Essentially one big lap, so Briançon to Briançon. This place is incredible. There's mountains everywhere. And we're staying in Chevalier, which is about 8 kilometres up from Briançon, which is the direction of the Galibier, so they call it the Laverack. Anyway, I had a slightly better night's sleep last night, relatively speaking, compared to the rest of the week. My actual sleep score was better, but I still only slept for like 6.5 hours. My sleep this week has not been the best, and it's only today, I think, waking up this morning, that I feel like I've turned a bit of a page and I've found a bit of a routine. It's quite difficult because it's early starts, or early-ish starts, because you're having breakfast at 6 a.m. usually, and then the event starts at anywhere between 7 and 8 a.m. depending on the length of the stage. Today's stage, definitely the shortest stage. Well, on paper, also looked like potentially the easiest stage, but I think it was far from it. It was only easier because we just had technically one climb, or one col, and that was the Col de Izoard. So I wanted to see today if I could save as much energy, just do one effort up the Col de Izoard and see where we go from there. Now, to catch you up with the general classification, every day I keep losing a little bit of time. I've not gained any time yet, but maybe today is the day that changes. but I'll take you through the story from the very start. So the guy who's leading the 7-day Alpes event at the minute is Fabio. He has a great palmarès when it comes to Gran Fondo events. He's won the Gran Fondo Col de la Loz. He's been competitive at the Étape du Tour. So his climbing ability is very much up there. Rolling along that time section is a little bit dicey. There was still quite a large group. Everyone was getting involved in the thick of the action, and made it more like a road race than what essentially has just been time trials I've climbed so far, because we haven't had any downhill timed sections, really speaking. So it was getting a little bit sketchy until we hit that climb, and I got myself in a good position to launch straight into it and slingshot myself through the group and up the road. There was a few out in the breakaway at that point, and I was catching them one at a time going up this climb. Fabio, straight on me though, closes me down, and then just as we get to the top, goes over the top of me, and I am unable to respond, given that actually I'm not feeling great when I'm going like really deep in a short period of time, especially early on in the stage. My legs, my body has not had time to get going. I should have a better warm-up, but it's really difficult unless you have a turbo trainer to get like a proper warm-up in, because you're either right into the start or you're getting lost, or you've got to think about, you know, other things like making sure your bag is going to the right place and stuff like that. So it's actually quite difficult to get proper warm-ups in, but that's okay. It is what it is. You just got to make do. But we then descend down because the descent is neutralized. The clock stopped at the top. So I'd lost a little bit of time to Fabio there, the leader. But it is what it is. So I get down into the feed station and loads of people catch up there, and we all just regroup, and everyone's waiting to go over the timing mat to get going, because this now is going to be the start of basically one massive time section all the way to the top of the Izoard. This really is about 45-50 kilometres, and the last 13 kilometres or so is going to be on that mountain. Now, as we were going through the day, I was gradually feeling better and better. The valley towards the Izoard is quite draggy. It was a good road. You're going through this valley. It was really nice, actually, like the cliffs either side of you, a river as well. It was just quite peaceful, and there was no real racing happening at this point. It was just, let's just get to the bottom of this mountain in a group and see what happens from there. And you could tell by the chatting and everything else in the group that it was pretty chilled. However, on taking this left turn onto the Izoard, it was plain and clear that within 30 seconds, the race leader wanted to make the climb difficult from the very bottom. And given, I think, the time advantage that the leader has now over me in second place, and as I said, I've gradually lost time day by day because the attacks that he's been putting in close to the top of climbs have just been nuclear. And so I've had a hard time responding to them, especially when we're at really high altitude. We've had a couple of days where we've gone over 2,500 meters, and it's really taken its toll on me. This little sea level boy has struggled a little bit. So I've had to just ride my own pace, much like everybody else. Not just in the top 10 or top 20, but even further back. We're all in the same boat. But yeah, the climb starts hard. But I know that this climb is fairly shallow and straight for a good while. There's a couple of little drops and things. So I made a concerted effort to get across to the leader and sit on the wheel and see what happened. I mean, I would have probably pulled through, but given what I'd seen already this week, I was kind of resigned to being like very cautious. I'm going to sit behind, let him pace, because that's what he's been doing most of the week is riding at his own tempo. And, you know, eventually he's probably going to drop me. So, or put a stinging attack in like he has been doing. So I wanted to sit on and I wanted to just see how I went kilometre by kilometre. Now the Izoard is again a very high mountain, well over 2,000 metres above sea level. And when you climb for this length of time, you know, I think our climbing pace was something around 1500 VAM for 45 minutes. You know, the last 15-20 minutes, it really starts to get to you, because not only are you that far into the effort and that far into the stage at that point, but you're also getting higher and higher up the mountain and, you know, further into the thinner air. So we were running together, and I looked behind. The gap was, well, initially it formed straight away to the group behind, the people in, you know, third and fourth and everyone in the top 10. But from what I gather, that group then eventually, well, pretty much stayed together until 8K to go, where it was like a free-for-all and it all split up. But in my situation, I found myself on Fabio's wheel, and we were just riding, and I looked down, I could see we were doing about 260, 270 watts, which is yielding around 1200, 1300 VAM, because the gradient is fairly decent. But then we got to 8K to go through this little village, and we take this right turn, and it does go straight and steep, actually just before the right turn. And the leader just puts big digging out of the saddle. It's well over 45 seconds, a minute. In fact, probably the full attack is probably closer to 2 minutes, looking at my power graph. And I didn't get out the saddle, I just tried to stay on the wheel, doing like a Chris Froome, like in the saddle, just focusing on that wheel in front of me, spinning, and just trying to hold on and hoping that the attack doesn't go on for too long. And so eventually the elastic does snap. But I have to say, it was more of a controlled snap than me just completely exploding. I guess that's where experience comes in. You try not to put yourself in a position where, you know, you're going past the point of no return and you have to completely ease off, like you see the domestiques where they pull off the side of the road and they're like literally doing walking speed. I made the decision that it was better to let him go than for me to try and maintain that pace. Now, not long after I actually let the leader have that gap, the gap stabilized. And it was a little bit surprising to me that it stabilized so quickly. And then for the next, I don't know what it was, maybe 5-6 kilometers of quite a sustained hard gradient, we were just neck and neck. We weren't going anywhere. We weren't gaining, we weren't losing, we were... Now it's easy to say, well, if you'd have just stuck on the wheel, then it'd been easier. It's not quite as simple as that. So by leaving the leader go, I was able to settle into my own pace a lot earlier than maybe I would have if I'd stayed with him. And so I was able to just settle and do my own rhythm. And that rhythm was around about 300 watts, 310 watts. It's not crazy power, but you know, it's around about 5 watts per kilo. And I was going, well, I say it's not crazy power, but obviously I'm comparing that to World Tour riders, but you know what I mean. Relatively, you know, we're tired now and things like that. So that's why I would say it's not crazy, because yeah, you know what I mean. But getting towards the top, I could sense that from the body language and from, I guess, the way the gap was stable for so long. And I was looking at the power numbers, and 310 watts was like, I was feeling okay. I thought maybe I do have a chance to get back to the wheel, because the gap's not big. I can maybe snap and close it, but I have to choose the right time. And choosing the right time is crucial, because I knew that there was a slight descent before the last 2 kilometers to the top of the Izoard. And I would have to pick my time right, because I don't want to get there too soon and then the pace eases off and then there's an attack again. I want to get there just before that descent, so that we're sort of both forced to ride fairly hard until that point, and then we both have equal amounts of rest, because we've both been trying to, well, not drop one another, but certainly distance each other. So that's what happened. I did catch just before that section, so I did feel like I had to go around and keep the pace high, because otherwise it would drop, we'd have a bit of recovery, and I was fearing that attack would come, because that is something he has over me, I feel, at the minute. So we crest that and we drop down into this bowl, and there's some fantastic views, I bet, from the top of this mountain, but I was not really taking it in at that point. And then we kick up to do the last 1.7 kilometers maybe. And I think about sticking it into the big ring and keeping it there, but then I see the stone, the sign on the side of the road, and it says, you know, next kilometer, like 9.2%. I was thinking to myself, maybe not big ring is a good idea right now. So I'll stay in the little ring and maybe into the big ring if it shallows off slightly further up. As it turns out, the wind was actually catching us there, so we were getting a little bit of a tailwind. And coming into the last kilometer, I could hear, because I was now just ramping the pace. I was still fearing this stinging acceleration that might come. So I felt like if I just ramp the pace, it's something that I can control, and hopefully something that no attacks can come over the top of. And so coming into that last kilometer, I put it into the big ring. We caught this nice tailwind round a hairpin, and I just, well, basically put my head down and tried to lift the pace and hold it as high as possible, essentially to the finish line. And with about 400 meters to go, 300 meters to go, I could just hear that heavy breathing that both of us were gasping for air at the top of that mountain. I could hear it was getting more distant behind me. And it's at that moment it kind of lifts you. It gives you a bit of a boost. And I came around the final corner, the finish line was there. I took one last glance and I could tell that I was gonna get to the summit first. Didn't gain any time, well, maybe 8 seconds, but it doesn't really make a dent into the overall standings. But to be honest with you, I was more happy of the way I rode the climb, the way I handled not the pressure, but being in a position where I felt like I could have a good day on that mountain, and I didn't want to bottle it. I didn't want to panic. It's very easy when an attack comes in and you get dropped and your head can go and you immediately talk yourself out of it. I was really proud that I was able to keep the tempo, not lose too much ground, and then be able to come back and then finish it off that. You know, I was really relieved to be able to pull off a ride like that at that elevation, with that length of climbing. It was a fantastic way to end. But boy, oh boy, did we push each other. I go back to the finish. I had to descend all the way down back to Briançon, which is 20 kilometers. And in actual fact, it is the way we'll be coming up in the next video, the next stage, tomorrow, up the 20 kilometer drag, which, just like the side we've just come up, gradually gets steeper. The last, 7 kilometers averages 7, 8, 9%. And that is going to be a place where, again, it's going to be really hard. But I'm going to enjoy this afternoon, this moment of a small victory, personal victory for myself, and a bit of redemption as well after, losing a bit of time throughout the week. It was nice to get my first across the line, first to the finish of the week. First being teens on stage 2, and obviously today up the Izoard. And that's it, guys. I apologize that I've done this video in my hotel room. It is raining outside and I couldn't really go anywhere else, and I needed a bit of peace and quiet. I hope you appreciate that. It's quite draining, this race in Malarkey, but I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next stage.